intense.
In Louisiana, Edwin Edwards defeats David Duke for governor. What does that mean for national politics in the coming campaign? This is NBC Nightly News, reported by Garrick Utley. Good evening. It is over now, and it wasn't even close, the race for governor there in Louisiana. After weeks of controversy, political passion, and national attention, Edwin Edwards, a former governor, crushed David Duke. The turnout there was large, 78%. Edwards won 61% of the votes to Duke's 39%. In New Orleans, here's correspondent Jim Cummins.
Today, Louisiana had a political hangover for a change. But Edwin Edwards said he was feeling great. His margin of victory was larger than just about anyone expected. He had a message for supporters of David Duke who want to crack down on welfare mothers and end affirmative action programs.
Race baiting, name calling, suggesting that it's the fault of someone else is not going to solve the problem. Because we're in this state together and we're going to all do well together, or nobody will do well.
Duke would not rule out running for president as a Republican. His supporters are divided over that possibility.
Well, I'd like to see him try to run for president. I know that he's got a lot of support all over the United States.
I'm not sure he has enough base to have a successful campaign.
Edwards, a three-term governor and a notorious political scalawag, won because he got nearly all of the black vote, a larger than expected number of white votes, and the people of Louisiana were scared of what would happen to their state with a former Ku Klux Klan leader as their governor.
It boiled down to the economic blackmail that was put upon our state by special interests, and people were afraid to vote for me, then that they'd lose jobs or business or tourism.
But Edwards disagreed, saying he believes the Duke campaign marks the end of a movement.
I think that the Ronald Reagans and the George Bushes, who set the stage for this in a more subtle, more distinguished way, realize the error they have made. I think the days of Willie Horton are behind us, and hopefully the nation has learned that.
Today, the regulars at Jack Dousson's Cafe in the French Quarter were still talking about the latest legends of Louisiana politics. Edwin Edwards.
He's got to listen to what he said.
Right. And he could be the man if he wants to do it. But did he change?
He really changed.
Well, let's hope he changed, Jack.
David Duke.
Duke was the right, he had the right message, but he wasn't the messenger.
There is a sense of relief here that the election is over. Now Louisiana has to figure out a way to solve its many problems. Jim Cummins, NBC News, New Orleans.
Well, Ed Edwards in the governor's office in Louisiana will not be an unusual sight for the people of that state. He served 3 terms before. And this afternoon I asked him whether his victory was due to people voting for him or against his opponent.
Well, exit polls show, and my own analysis is that just slightly more than 50% voted for me because they wanted me to be governor. About 10% voted for me because they didn't want him to be governor. I recognize that. I knew it was going to be a tough election for me because of the fact that I've been governor 12 years and I've been controversial. But I'm very pleased by the fact that I would have won this election against anybody based upon poll analysis.
Now, Mr. Edwards, we can't ignore the role of race in this. We know David Duke's background and the Klan. You won more than 90%, 95, 96% of the black vote, the important vote in Louisiana. How do you as governor now bring the people of that state together?
Well, bear in mind that I've always gotten a very lopsided black vote because my record of advocacy for them and their concerns goes back for 40 years. I was in the vanguard of white Southern politicians who supported civil rights and a better life for minorities, Hispanics, blacks, etc. And that's a natural constituency for me. It made it a little bit easier this time given my opponent's record, but it's not unusual that I would get over 95% of the black vote. I always have.
Now, people in the race, people in Louisiana were asking about political reforms, personal reforms. We know Duke's past. They also know your past. 42% of the people in the exit poll said, yes, they believe you, Ed Edwards, were guilty of corruption in the past. Are you going to reform yourself, and how as the new governor?
Well, I hope to do better than that and reform the press. And I've already established a very good working relationship with the press down here. Much of my problems are a matter of perception. There's been no proof or no evidence, no documents, no canceled checks, nothing like that. It's a matter of perception. And some of it is my fault because I allowed it to accumulate rather than trying to stop it at the time these various incidents occurred. But I would guard against that this time and be a great deal more careful. And I think in time I can evaporate much of that concern.
Governor-elect Edwin Edwards this afternoon. Well, now, let's find out about some other perceptions. What does the result in Louisiana mean for the rest of the nation, the coming political campaign? Lisa Meyer tells us now that both parties should be very worried about that.
The loudest cheers for Edwards came from George Bush and the Republican Party, who escaped their worst nightmare.
I want to congratulate the people of Louisiana for thoroughly rejecting David Duke. It was a complete repudiation of David Duke.
The Republican National Chairman hailed Duke's defeat as a mighty blow against racism, bigotry, and hatred. Democrats said maybe this will teach Republicans to stop playing racial politics.
We hope they learn the lesson that the politics of division, of blame, wedge issues, that politics doesn't win.
However, that may be wishful thinking. The fact is that Duke lost not because of his message, but in spite of it. And there is plenty in the Louisiana results to worry both political parties.
There are a lot of angry voters in America, and they're not just in Louisiana. And what they're saying is the traditional politicians don't even know we're angry, let alone have some ideas to how to help us out.
Duke's message clearly struck a chord well beyond Louisiana. 40% of his campaign money came from outside the state. A recent Gallup poll shows overwhelming national support for key parts of his message.
I'm not a racist, don't get me wrong. I'm not like a racist like he might be. But I believe in some of the things he believes in.
79% of Americans agree with Duke that all welfare recipients should be forced to work.
People are tired of carrying the burden for people that they think are lazy and don't want to work.
76% oppose affirmative action and other racial preferences.
I feel that in some ways, the white male population is the minority in this country.
Our two great political parties don't change, and soon the result will be the continued deterioration of American democracy and the rise of more David Dukes all over this country.
The messenger in Louisiana was fatally flawed, but the overall message proved powerful enough that it should worry just about every politician in the country, including George Bush. Lisa Myers, NBC News, Washington.
And as we cover our world this day, we'll go next to China to find out what Secretary of State James Baker is bringing home.
Winston Cup Championship number 5 to the teamwork of Dale Earnhardt, Goodwrench Racing, and genuine GM parts.
I swim, I jog, I love junk food. Sometimes even I get constipation.
When it happens to you, Ex-Lax pills give you a choice. Extra gentle for a little help, regular for a little more. Ex-Lax for regular people who sometimes aren't.
There's a new way to doctor a cough. Robitussin cough drops.
Try this, it's new.
With an active ingredient that speeds soothing relief to your cough.
Try this, it's new.
New Robitussin cough drops from the cough experts.
Secretary of State James Baker headed home to Washington tonight after 3 days of tough talks with China's leaders in Beijing. He didn't get what he wanted, but he got something. Correspondent John Dancy adds up the balance sheet of this diplomatic mission.
Baker went into these meetings with low expectations, and the Chinese met them fully. They turned down his request to release some political prisoners jailed for peaceful dissent. They put off a request to allow the International Red Cross to visit prisoners in Chinese jails. Only at the last minute did Foreign Minister Chen Chi-chun give Baker information on 800 political prisoners. The U.S. had requested the information last spring, but China had ignored the demand until today. The Chinese also agreed to give exit visas to anyone not accused of criminal charges. Baker conceded he got less than he wanted on human rights. His scorecard showed
some gains with respect to the area of human rights, not as much as we would have hoped.
But Baker said he was encouraged that Chinese leaders had finally agreed to discuss human rights.
We're beginning, it seems to me, to make some progress. I don't want to speculate about whether there will be releases. If there were, we would be extremely happy and pleased about it.
On other issues, the Chinese agreed to complete and sign a treaty pledging not to export nuclear weapons technology, to stop sales of missiles and technology abroad if the U.S. dropped sanctions imposed in June after some Chinese missile components were sold to Pakistan, to sign a memorandum of understanding aimed at cutting off the export of Chinese goods made by prison labor to the U.S. A senior administration official said Baker found Chinese leaders he met in 2 days of talks obviously divided over how much to give. Baker repeatedly told the Chinese leaders that only they could prevent the U.S. Congress cutting off China's favored trade status. Tonight, Baker would not speculate on whether he had obtained enough concessions to satisfy Congress.
The Baker visit demonstrated the distance that remains between the United States and China. But it also demonstrated again that the world's strongest power and the world's largest one cannot simply ignore each other. John Dancy, NBC News, Beijing.
As we heard just there in John's report, a critical issue now is the trade preference the United States gives China. That means lower tariffs on Chinese goods and therefore lower prices. And what does that mean in China? Brad Willis takes us to a free trade zone there.
Christmas is coming and Santa's helpers are busy at work. Not at the North Pole, but in Guangdong Province, China. This is a birthplace of hundreds of familiar faces. Millions of Guangdong Chinese work in what are called joint venture factories. American companies doing business with China and splitting the profit. 21-year-old Li Yuan has worked at this factory for 3 years. She takes home $80 per month, twice the average national wage in China.
If most favored nation status is canceled, I'll lose my job. I'll be poor again.
Over the past decade, Guangdong has become a billion-dollar boom town. Its people have grown independent, even defiant of the hardline politicians in Beijing. And free trade has made their living standard the highest in the country. But should the United States withhold most favored nation status, Guangdong would be hardest hit. Millions of people put out of work, billions of dollars lost. This unique experiment in social and economic reform inside China might well collapse. 3,000 workers at this one shoe factory would lose their jobs if MFN is canceled. It's a business it took 6 years for one American to build. Howard Schaefer of Hillsborough Beach, Florida.
Everything I've put into here all these years, and it's not just the last 6 years, it's the last 15 years of my life that I've directed toward Asia, toward China, that would bring it pretty much to an end. I wouldn't be happy.
The world cannot forget the images of Tiananmen Square. But the people of Guangdong, who are making their province a sort of liberal, westernized society American politicians prize, wonder why they should be the ones to pay the price.
We are workers. I really need this job.
Brad Willis, NBC News, Guangdong, China.
In the moment next, the economy and jobs in this country, and new information that the recession was worse than was officially acknowledged.
Mice. For everyone you see, there may be 15 or 20 that you don't see, and they eat in many different places. A very unhealthy situation. But put Decon Mouse-Prufe in the places mice feed, like behind the refrigerator, the cupboard, the washer, and you'll eliminate them faster. Decon Mouse-Prufe gets mice right where they live.
Do you know what my favorite country is? Country Scent Lysol Disinfectant Spray. It's all the power of Lysol spray in a fresh country scent.
Every time you reach for a cereal, you have to make a choice. Well, what if next time you had to choose between these cereals based solely on the side panels? No brand names, no fancy packages, just the plain and simple facts. You'd find only one is low in sugar, and a good source of fiber, and made from whole grain oats. Cheerios. Compare the side panels and see for yourself. The choice is Cheerios.
You could fill your whole Christmas list right here.
You're Santa's little helpers.
Just ask Ace.
Yeah.
Ace indoor-outdoor Christmas lights are just $2.99 a set. The Hamilton Beach hand blender is only $14.99.
Hey, Ace is the place.
La 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 la.
We bake pearls made of denture material in this blueberry pie to prove how powerfully Efferdent, America's leading denture cleanser, removes this tough stain, even in between. Efferdent, stronger than stains.
On Focus this evening, we look at the economy, the recession. Economists tell us now that technically it's over, although a real recovery has not yet started. The numbers told us that as recessions go, it was relatively mild. But was it? An uncomfortable fact is only now emerging, that many more jobs may have been lost than originally thought. Jeff Madrick explains what that means.
Official Washington has long called it a mild recession. But now, the government itself has turned up hard evidence that the recession is as serious as many people have been saying. Ask an unemployed medical technician.
I hope in my lifetime I never have to go through this again.
A furniture salesman.
Well, I think the politicians in Washington are out of touch.
It turns out that far more jobs were lost across the nation than the government had previously reported. Cover up? Most economists say no. At the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Commissioner Janet Norwood says her agency only recently received enough data to corroborate the discrepancies.
There might be a downward revision of as much as 650,000 for the first quarter of the year.
650,000 more lost jobs turns a mild recession into an undeniably serious one. In the severe recession of 1974, 1.9% of the labor force lost jobs. In the still more harsh recession of 1982, 3% lost jobs. With no revision, jobs lost in this recession come to only 1.4% of workers. But with the revision, 2% of the labor force have now lost jobs, already worse than 1974, and it may not be over yet. The biggest overestimate turned up here in California. The state employment records usually closely track the federal surveys, but early this year, they differed dramatically.
One reason that we think that it happens is that small businesses are underrepresented in the survey, and new businesses in particular.
Gibson says a lot of businesses, especially in construction and real estate, cut workers late last year and early this year, and many went out of business. This former Sacramento contractor is now working for someone else in San Francisco.
I'd lay my guys off and come down here and go back to carpentry work.
Tourism and business travel were also down sharply. Hotels hit especially hard.
The first quarter of this year was the worst I've had in 30 years in the business and the toughest to deal with.
The government's 650,000 estimate of lost jobs may still be too low. Economist Gibson says when all the revisions are completed, the job losses may well hit 1 million.
From what we can tell, this is not a mild recession. We will find that this was a recession very much like the 81-82 experience, a deep, long recession.
I have a college degree. You know, I work for a radio station, and here I am applying for secretarial jobs, and I can't even get it. You know, how can that be? This is America.
The first round of revisions will come next month, but the government won't complete the adjustments until early summer, just a few months before Election Day. Jeff Madrick, NBC News, Los Angeles.
And we'll be back with more news.
A lot of cars are taking aim at the imports these days. Well, one American car is very much on target. Buick. Here's their latest hit, the all-new 1992 Skylark. Completely redesigned with more power and advanced features like standard anti-lock brakes. Skylark for 1992. It's got everything you've been looking for, plus the one thing only Buick can offer you. Buick quality.
Presto has a great idea.
Shoot some slices, shoot some shrimp, shoot some salad, Saladshooter.
Now, Presto has a great big idea. Professional Saladshooter slicer shredder. Big capacity, holds a lot, shoots a lot. Powerful, fast, a variety of cutting blades so you can point and slice thick, slice thin, shred right into the bowl, even ripple cut. Chop, grate right where you want. Clean up easy, dishwasher safe, store anywhere.
Saladshooter.
Original, cordless, now professional Saladshooter.
Whoa, 50 Studebaker. Yeah. Hey, we had one of these when I was a kid. Weird. Yeah. The other kids called it a stupid baker because it looked the same from the front as it did from the back.
And that's a classic.
Right. Hey, I should buy it and put a sign on it that says, "Now who's stupid?"
I don't know. Would you put the sign on the front or the back?
Oh, cute.
Relax. You're among friends. Levi's 100% cotton Dockers.
Like to try Total?
Special K's my love.
Hope you're hungry. Takes almost 3 bowls of Special K to get the nutrition in 1 bowl of Total.
3? It's just me here.
Well, just 1 bowl of Total has 100% of 12 vitamins and minerals.
Total's got what it takes.
Now you don't need a prescription to get prescription-strength medicine for itches and rashes. Introducing new maximum-strength Cortaid. Now with twice the healing medicine. New maximum-strength Cortaid. Prescription strength without a prescription.
Parts of Washington state were recovering today from a powerful Pacific storm there. More than 130,000 homes and businesses were still without electricity this afternoon. 70-mile-an-hour winds knocked over utility poles and uprooted trees. Cars were crushed, and power lines went down there in Washington state. Well, another calamity in the West occurred almost 1 month ago. The fire in the hills above Oakland and Berkeley, California, which destroyed thousands of houses there. Now people are beginning to rebuild their lives, and George Lewis went back to see how the homeowners without a home are doing.
This was all garden. This is the house.
Shirley Carey is an unemployed restoration ecologist. Her parents-in-law decided she was uniquely qualified to help them clean up their property.
After the rains, then we're going to have to start rebuilding. But until then, you might as well plant a garden.
When the big fire roared through here October 20th, killing 25, it consumed more than 3,000 houses and apartments. In the words of Oakland's mayor, the job of rebuilding this area is going to be an awesome task. Local officials have begun to meet with homeowners to plan the reconstruction. Some people, eager to get on with the job, charge there's been too much bureaucratic foot dragging.
There's a lot of non-information from the city. We've been trying to contact them, and it seems like a lot of people don't know a lot of things.
Revised building codes have to be worked out. New homes may have to have fire-retardant roofs and sprinklers. Almost half the 25 people killed in the fire died in a traffic jam on this narrow street, which is only half as wide as required by modern standards. In many areas, the rebuilding process will be delayed while officials figure out how many streets need widening.
Well, coming down!
The burned neighborhoods are still getting first aid. Crews have been putting down straw and planting vegetation to prevent the barren earth from creating mudslides. Another problem is rats. They've been crawling out of broken sewer pipes looking for food.
So we're looking for the sewers. We're digging them up. We're capping them so the rats can't get out and pester the people.
But in spite of all the headaches, a big majority of homeowners are determined to rebuild.
Look at the view. You know, we're going to give this up for someplace where all you can see is your neighbor's laundry.
This sign, "We'll be back," just about sums it up. George Lewis, NBC News, Oakland, California.
And from the physical destruction of that upscale community, we go next to the human devastation of the inner cities and an attempt to stop the violence for at least one day.
Have you tried Folgers coffee singles?
One coffee
In its own filter.
Singular sensation, every single cup you brew.
It's like brewing a whole pot. One cup at a time.
Singular sensation, fresh brewed morning for you.
There's ground roast in here.
In its own filter.
Folgers, singular sensation, just for one.
Folgers coffee singles. One sensational way to wake up.
This man just finished an incredibly close and exceptionally comfortable shave with the Norelco razor. But to see how he got it, we have to go back to when he began to shave, not just above the skin, but below it. Here, our patented lift and cut system lifts the hair so when it's cut, it can actually drop below skin level without the blades even touching your face. Try it, and you'll keep going back to Norelco for a perfect shave. Norelco, we make close, comfortable.
Ford Motor Company profiles in quality, vision.
Quality of the glass that goes into our cars is so important, we make it ourselves.
No other car company in the world does that.
Ford glass has to pass over 110 quality inspections. Our people check it, our lasers check it, our robots check it.
Our glass is so good, it not only goes into our cars, many other automakers put it in their cars.
Our goal is to build the highest quality cars and trucks in the world.
At Ford, quality is job one.
A cold starts small, but before you know it, your cold is full grown. Maximum strength Dimetapp relieves sneezing and congestion. 12-hour Dimetapp Extend tabs, relief for the full-grown cold.
Looking ahead this week, all eyes will be on Wall Street when the stock market reopens tomorrow morning. It dropped 120 points on Friday, and investors tomorrow will offer their verdict on the market and the economy and where they are headed. And still looking ahead, we turn now from Wall Street to what's happening in the streets of too many American cities. The violence, the drugs, crime as the culture there. Is it possible to call for a ceasefire even for one day? That's what will be attempted this coming Friday. 17 radio stations in 16 cities across the land will call for that ceasefire, an end to the violence in the cities. It's an idea that was tried this past week in Washington, D.C. Robin Lloyd is there.
Triple of Music, WPGC 95 with Paco, broadcasting live from the D.C. Correctional Complex Minimum Security Facility. We'll be here all afternoon.
Washington's #1 radio station, broadcasting from behind prison walls. DJ Paco Lopez is talking with convicted drug dealers and murderers.
What do you tell that kid who's thinking about grabbing a piece and going out to rip somebody off?
You ain't gonna get away with it, you know. If you want your freedom, leave the drugs alone and stop the violence.
That message is an urgent one in Washington. The bloodshed continues here at a record pace. The highest per capita murder rate in the country. Many of the victims are young people, a grim reality that radio station WPGC could not ignore.
And now, a message for the kids. It's Marky Mark. You walk on the wild side, you die on the wild side. Wild side on WPGC.
DJ Robin Breeden has made this campaign her personal crusade.
You cannot tell people, hey, dance to the music. Life is wonderful. When you got people dying, you got people being laid off, you got their kids being shot up, everybody's on drugs. You can't say be happy, forget about it all, and just dance to the music.
Stations like WPGC are now sending their on-air personalities out of the studio and onto the streets, handing out peace ribbons to rally support for this nationwide campaign.
There's a lot of enthusiasm now around the country for this radio campaign to end violence. Many community leaders feel it's a first step to focus public attention on a problem growing worse each day.
But will it work? Many young people think not.
A lot of people that are really into all that drugs and all that violence, they're not paying the radio message no attention.
But promoters of this nationwide campaign are optimistic.
Something is being done about it. You know, whether or not it's going to make a change overnight is yet to be seen, but at least it's a positive step.
A small step that has brought hope to some that the violence can be stopped, at least for one day.
As you leave the monument grounds, please, blow out your candles in those flames, but do not turn out the lights in your heart.
Robin Lloyd, NBC News, Washington.
When the radio stations decided to try that campaign, they had to agree on a date. Next Friday was chosen, November 22nd, the anniversary of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. And that is our look at our world this day. Tom Brokaw will be here tomorrow. I'm Garrick Utley. Good night for NBC News.
Betty White thought her time was running out.
Here I come.
Until Leslie Nielsen gave her some new reasons to live.
Sounds like we're perfect for each other.
The movie about second chances and second romances.
Scoundrel.
The critics acclaim it's charming, and Entertainment Weekly says cheers to Chance of a Lifetime, NBC tomorrow.
It's big waves, volcanoes, kahunas, hula. It's Hawaii, and you're going there when the Today Show takes you on a vacation in paradise this week. Aloha!
Time is running out for that sale. Listen, Pigeons will be closed tomorrow morning until 12 noon.
Pigeons, furniture, and appliances, 50/50.